Views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the participants. The hosts make no claim to be literary experts, and their opinions are exactly that, opinions. All creative works discussed or reviewed are the intellectual property of the creators of said stories and is being used under the Fair Use Doctrine.
Hello and welcome to Of Swords and Soulmates, a podcast where we read, watch, and discuss romantasy stories. I'm one of your hosts, Mari, and with me I have Kelly.
Hey everyone, it's Kelly. We have Ashley.
Hey guys, it's Ashley. We also have Jonathan.
What's going on? It's JP. Woo!
We have a whole lot of news today. So we're going to be discussing eventually One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. But fair warning, buckle in, listeners. We got a lot. I feel like it's been months since, if I look at the news, it looks like it's been months since we've talked, but I know it isn't. It's just a lot has happened. So to begin with, we have Ali Hazelwood has had to cancel her UK signing tour dates that were already set to go. People had already gotten reservations and whatnot to do. We've talked about her before. She's mainly does contemporary romance STEM, but of course she wrote Bride and the upcoming sequel to that, Mate, right? Is that what the sequel's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's supposed to be at the Romanticon in Orlando in October. So she released this on her Facebook following and Instagram at the same time. She said, quote, "So I have to cancel all my UK events. It breaks my heart and I cannot apologize enough." And then in the little details of that, she put, "I have decided to cancel my April events in the UK. This is because of several complicated reasons that mostly boil down to the fact that things being what they are, it's not possible for me to safely travel outside and then back inside the US." End quote. I know she's Italian born and she is here doing work, she's some kind of neuroscientist for her main gig. So I'm assuming it's related to that is why she would have concerns about being able to go out and come back in. Yeah.
Tough times.
Very much so.
Yeah. I am, it's not the first author that I've come across that mentioned something like that.
Oh, that's the first one I saw.
Yeah.
She's
definitely the biggest.
There's a Canadian author who she hasn't posted it publicly, but so I won't say her name. But on Instagram, I was like, "Hey, do you have any upcoming shows or conventions that you're planning to be at?" She was like, "Unfortunately, not this year. I live in Canada, and that travel is just not. It's not part of my my year this year because of given the current situation." I'm paraphrasing,
right?
But yeah. So I mean, there are impacts all over.
Mm-hmm.
We're fortunate, hopefully. Ali is one of the authors that I'm looking forward to meeting this fall.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited to meet Ali, and I'm hopeful that because Mother Rebecca Yarros will be at this same event, and I'm hoping that she attracts the masses, so that way I get more FaceTime with Ali.
I really think so. I really think that Rebecca Yarros being there, I'm very excited she's going to be there, even though I'm not necessarily going to try to go for getting the signing tickets or pay for the Disney event or whatever with her. But I'm like, yes, please get more, people coming to the con, but also maybe that'll give us some more time with the rest of the authors. Not that I feel we had any issues talking to anybody last time, but I know there wasn't anybody as big as Rebecca Yarros there.
Was Penn Cole there?
Penn Cole was there.
And
we didn't know then, though.
Yeah.
We didn't know we loved her.
She's another one I want to get.
I don't know that she's coming this year.
No, I didn't see her on the list.
All I hear in my head is when he talks about these authors, and the majority of them are women, right? So in my what's that sound bite that's just like, "These are my ladies."
That's
the soundbite I'm thinking of.
This is Bernadette. No, it's not.
Sorry.
It's not.
I don't mean it in a sexual way.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the
it's
way
not
he fangirls over authors has been mind blowing. He's cold calling them on Instagram, like, "Hey, I really like your stuff. Are you going to be at any cons this year?"
Not in a creepy way.
No, it's very precious.
Yeah.
Very precious.
From everything I hear, authors always appreciate when you tell them that you like their work. Yeah, they get enough. Yeah. I think bad criticism from people because there's so many people who pick apart other people's work.
Oh, poor Callie. Yeah, she's going through it this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just out there making besties.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Have the audacity.
yeah, just
guys.
listen. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Just raise your hand and ask
These are my
the stupid
ladies.
question.
That's all I hear.
Bernadette. This is my lady Abigail. This is my other lady Ellie. Lucky to meet Juliet.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make it weird. That was just all
thanks.
I heard in my head.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're funny.
Yeah, so maybe one way to support Allie is if you're in the UK and what I did for the Canadian author that I will be unable to meet was I just went on her website and I ended up purchasing a number of book plates. They're cheap.
Oh, you did?
easy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got like 5 book plates,
That's
one for
nice.
each of her books as they come out.
Yeah, guys, sell book plates. We'll buy them.
And a lot of
100%.
authors sell other like little merch and stuff on their website directly,
Yeah.
like stickers or maybe like official, T-shirts with their little like logos or something with the characters. I say little. That sounds very dismissive. I don't mean that. I mean like
Right.
things about their
Little
fandom, whatever they
knickknacks.
create. Like if it's a side character, if it's a catchphrase,
I love
a lot of
side
times there'll be
character.
things like that the authors sell on their website. So there's definitely ways to support them in that way. Although, speaking of some shipping kind of stuff, this news I'm going to say tentative because I've been unable to confirm it myself, although I have had several people run into this. So Waterstones is a big UK book seller, and a lot of times there are special editions that are Waterstones exclusive. And you can pre-order from them way in advance, like you can from anybody else, from Barnes & Noble or whatever. And on 3 of the groups I was in, there were people that had pre-ordered, there were people who lived in the US who had pre-ordered books on Waterstones in the UK to be shipped over and had gotten a message saying that the screenshot that they had seen posted was, we regret that we are currently unable to accept or ship orders to the US while we establish options to be compliant with the new tariffs, end quote. That being said, I have several books on pre-order with Waterstones. None of them are set to be delivered anytime soon, but I didn't get this message anywhere that I looked at anything on my profile. So I don't know if it's books that have like imminent delivery while they figure it out.
Yeah. I think this is a very fluid situation.
Mhm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I am not as versed in the overseas, enterprises such as Waterstone, although I know that's one of the bigger names. There's also one called Blackwell's
Mhm.
that is both of those 2 very big names have sent similar emails about potential shipping delays or halts because of the new tariffs. But I thought I had heard some chatter about some of that being rescinded and, they're working through it or something of that nature. So definitely pay attention to the fine print during this time. Keep an eye out on your email for things that have already been pre-ordered. I thought I read that they were going to comply with orders that had already been received.
Right. Everything I've read says that they're going to honor what's already been ordered.
Right.
Yeah.
But that new one's moving forward. I think we're going to start seeing some really big delays, if not
big shipping
halting
prices changed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So just
Until
pay attention to stuff. Yeah.
Right. Or if they figure out what those numbers are, and then of course it falls on us to figure out what we want to do.
Right.
So yeah, it's Waterstone and Blackwell's, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe Waterstone owns Blackwell's now. I'm a little fuzzy on that. Forgive me,
I'm not
guys.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But I did see that chatter. Social media has a really good pulse on that stuff. And as the updates are coming, that's where I'm hearing them first.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as those warnings were going out about the halts, it was very quickly followed up with, hey, we're honoring the orders that have already been received kind of things.
Yeah.
So definitely keep an eye on your emails, guys. If you've already ordered something and if you're thinking about it, look for the fine print.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy, which the first one I believe is called Guilt. I'm Gild. I'm reading that one now.
Guild. Yeah.
Guild. Yeah. Not Guilt.
I thought this was a joke. This series is spicy.
It's dark. Like I'm only.
It's also dark.
Yeah. I'm only maybe, I don't know, something like 10-12% into book 1. But so far, let me paint a picture. And I know nothing right now. So I don't think I'm spoiling anything because everything I tell you is basically in the first chapter. This is like a King Midas situation retelling.
Mm-hmm.
And the main character, or the character whose perspective I have only gotten so far, is basically his non-consenting, groomed as a child prisoner. It's dark. And so she's like, oh, I just wish he would pay attention to me. I wish he would touch me. Oh my God, he's looking my way.
Yeah. I would pause on the non-consenting part, but it's definitely a potential grooming situation. I think I've read like 3 of the books when they first came out. And you're not wrong about it being dark. And it'll definitely touch on some very sensitive topics. But she thinks she's in love.
Yeah.
With this guy. So it's not necessarily non-consenting, but there's emotional, if not physical abuse.
Like I said,
there's a spin that comes later on, which makes it very fantasy, more fantasy than the retelling part of it, without spoiling anything. So I think there's like 5 or 6 of them now. But I'm very surprised that this is.
And I'm very early on, like I said, but the idea I thought was that she was like very young when he got her prisoner. I thought she was like a child.
I think he was also young. If I remember.
So like I said, I'm super, super early in. So this is just my take as a, like, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 11% into the situation. So super early. But yeah, that's apparently going to be a show. Showrunner is Kate Rorick. Yeah. I'll be interesting to see if that actually makes it to production. So we'll see.
Raven Kennedy is a big name. So this would be interesting for the book talk community. I mean, it's like, I remember it being decidedly spicy. So like Game of Thrones level of spice, because like Game of Thrones didn't hide anything either.
Right. Yeah, I would say it's definitely, like I said, by the beginning part that I've seen, it's definitely that level. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I don't have a real opinion on it other than definitely dark. Definitely read the trigger warnings if you have any issues. But so far, I'm intrigued. I mean, I'm willing to see the story through, see what happens. So, all right. Next bit of news we have is Hannah Nicole Mayer released that she is going to be doing a special edition hardcover of Assistant to the Villain through Barnes & Noble. It's very pretty. It's very shiny. Have you guys seen this?
I have. And I feel bad because I may or may not have commented on a social media post where other authors had elaborate painted edges and sprayed edges. And I was like, hey, y'all should teach Hannah, who was on there, how you guys got these fancy edges, because I would like to see her books in a fancier version. And then like the next day I saw this and I was like, word. JK, yeah. Hannah is another person that I would love to see at an event.
You had your shot.
I did have my shot. I missed it. Instead, I went to go meet Josh Gad at his book thing. So
maybe there'll be another time. She's got plenty more books in her.
I haven't seen anything about her touring.
Does she live in Florida?
That I don't know.
I almost I keep thinking somehow my mind is just locked on her living in Florida. So I'm like, I feel like I'm bound to bump into her. She did like a Friday night social thing on Facebook last week, and you can like chime in and ask them questions. And I think I asked her like, hey, what's the deal with Kingsley? Or is there a spinoff there? I think one of the dangers is if he's restored to humanity, right? Then, is there a risk of somebody, of a special someone falling in love with him? Or can we get a prequel? And she was like, wink, wink, time will tell. So,
yeah, we need to know Mark Kinsley for sure. Need to know more. So it's $32.99, and if you pre-order it, it ships September 16th, 2025. All right, new to us, although I don't know that it's a new store, but it's new to us. Jonathan found it. Narrative Threads sells a bunch of like book-based merch, but specifically they have some really cute, now that it's starting to get warm and it's no longer cold weather, really cute cardigans and like knit sweaters. A lot of Sarah J. Maas and some Fourth Wing stuff. The cardigans are in the $85 range and the knit sweaters are in the $120 range. So Jonathan, you posted this to us. And I had been to a local book club thing, like maybe a week before. And I hadn't realized that one of the people at the book club, because there's usually like 30, 40 people that come to these book clubs. But one of the people at the book club was wearing the Valaris sweater from this website.
Oh.
But I didn't realize it was Valaris because the way that the text sits on it and sits on your chest, all you see is Aris, Aris, and I'm like, oh, that's a Paris sweater. I'm thinking in my head. So no, but then I see on this website, I'm like, oh no, that was the Valaris sweater. So I've seen the Valaris sweater in person. It's cute. Seemed high quality.
They look high quality. So there's a great gradient. And then, you know how like when you have regular knit, it's almost like an 8-bit Nintendo system where you get like very blocky kind of characters, and you don't truly escape that. But from a distance, like,
I think they did a good job.
The way the gradients work, they are phenomenal. And the buttons are large, and they've got pockets. It gives off like a chunk vibe, and it's just real nice. I
ordered the blue Akatar cardigan. So when it arrives, I'll let you guys know. So
yeah. I'm super jelly.
Am I allowed on this website?
You can't. Only reason you can't go on this website is not because you can't have this stuff. I don't care what you buy. I bought a spice rack because you thought it looked cute. Like
you bought the spice rack?
I'm jealous of this sweater. This is cool.
So if you can't have it, nobody can have it.
Correct.
Why can't you have it?
I don't think they make them in unisex sizes.
Yeah, they do. They're really big sizes.
Is it because of size, or is it because of femininity?
I don't give a shit about femininity.
Sometimes you do.
Nah, I mean, like, not really. Like, there are some times where I'm like, dang, this stuff is so cool. I wish I was a girl, kind of thing. But then I remember that I have pockets and
well, and that
free will.
All that is a construct, and you can do what you want.
Yes.
Wear what you want.
So it's in clothing manufacturing, this is definitely a female garment. So when it comes to clothing manufacturing, the tell is that the buttons are on the left-hand side for women's and on the right-hand side for men's.
Oh, we're going deep into the autism.
So it'll definitely have a cut near the waist. It's not that I couldn't buy like a 2X and make it like and pull it off. Like,
baby, cardigans don't have cuts.
Yeah, they don't. They're straight up and down.
They're straight. It's going to look better on your body than mine.
Same. Yes. I mean, I'm going to wear it anyways, but it's going to be on a straight up and down body. To be honest.
I mean, this is
no hips body.
Yes.
This is
stupid boy. Now I'm mad.
This looks amazing, though. I mean, I'm just looking at
basically a cape with like arms, like sleeves.
One of these, the backside, rattle the stars. God,
yeah,
that's such a good.
That's Throne of Glass. I've got a Throne of Glass cardigan already. Otherwise, I would have bought that one too. But it wasn't from this company. I don't remember the company I bought it from, but it's the one I have is looks more like text, like out of a book kind of thing rather than realistic. It's black and beige, and it says rattle the stars, and it's got like constellations printed on it, but it's very much like drawn looking constellations. It doesn't look like the background in those cardigans look almost photorealistic. And the one I have doesn't look like that. But I was like, I don't need 2 Throne of Glass cardigans. I live in the South. It's not that cold.
So here's a challenge. I'm looking at the Varsity Knit Classic, and it's exactly what you might think. It's a knit sweater. It's 2-tone. It has block lettering. It's stitched in that 8-bit style, so to speak. So my challenge is to authors. You may not get me on a knit sweater because I live in Florida, but you could probably get me on a Spirit jersey if you're not familiar with the Spirit jersey clothing line. A lot of the theme parks have them, but these book titles would lend themselves to it. I understand that some of the authors, their work itself might not, but this could be right up somebody like Hannah Nicole Meyer's Allie or Juliet Cross, who's maybe a little more fun with some of her work and lighthearted with some of her work. The Spirit jersey could be a great solution. So,
or even like a ringer tee with like, more upscale embroidery or patches or whatnot. Yeah, I definitely tend to buy more t-shirts than I do sweaters or cardigans because you can layer them, you can wear them more throughout more of the year where we all live. We all live in the South. So, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Enough about narrative threads. We are not sponsored by them, but if you want to reach out, I'm just saying. All right. Next thing in the news is there's a new book coming out by Rachel Gillig, who is first of all, my bad. I should have looked up how to pronounce her name. I'm assuming it's pronounced Rachel Gillig. But she's the one who wrote the book that we're going to be talking about today. But she's got a new book coming out. It is The Night and the Moth. And the cover has been catching my eye for a while now. And I hadn't connected it was the same author that we are reading until very recently. Here's the synopsis for that book, which sounds amazing. A gothic tale of a prophetess who is forced beyond the safety of her cloister on an impossible quest to defeat the gods with the one knight whose future is beyond her sight. That sounds pretty epic to me.
This book looks
amazing,
divine.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like that image, I would like put it up on, my cubicle wall, if not my house, framed really nice. Like it's really pretty design.
Yeah, it is very beautiful. And it's a Barnes & Noble exclusive?
I don't think so.
It almost looks like that's the decal, that Sergio. Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. I just took it from her website. So that's the one that she linked on her website.
Who was just on... Somebody was just in a Barnes & Noble and had like signed a bunch of books and just like kind of... Like,
Geneva Rose.
Is that who it was? Interesting. I'm going to be honest. At Barnes & Noble, you spend a little bit more than you would at
Amazon.
Some other places. Yeah. But I feel like there's an opportunity and they make it easier to get your hands on some of these things. Like if I want a signed edition of a book,
yes.
It's just sometimes easier.
100%. And also I feel in my experience has been, we don't have a Barnes & Noble where we live. All we have is a Books A Million. So that I'm comparing a Books A Million to where my parents live, there's a Barnes & Noble. So when I go visit, I'll go to the Barnes & Noble. And every time I've been to the Barnes & Noble there, which is a bigger city, but every time I've been to the Barnes & Noble there, whatever book I'm looking for, I've always been able to find it. And I'm not looking for really like rare, books released 20 years ago or whatever. I'm talking generally recent stuff, but I've not had the same experience at Books A Million. So yeah, Barnes & Noble is a good place. It's a good bookstore to find books. Imagine that. So.
Yeah, we went into a Books A Million. My first experience not too long ago, Super Bowl Sunday. We went into one, or the Saturday of the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And it was, I thought it was a very nice. It's better than it was better than a Walden Books, which was just like a single bay bookshop. But it's definitely it paled in comparison.
It was like Walmart versus Target.
No, not even. It was like Dollar Tree versus Walmart.
Yeah, our Books A Million is a great place to go if you want T-shirts or games or tchotchkes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
like
so
an
much
FYE
books.
for the most part.
It's just it has knickknacks and additional merch. So I do appreciate that part of the Books A Million. It's not something I crave though. Like Barnes & Noble is just organized. It's very clearly books. You're very probably going to find what you're looking for, with the exception of like opening drop day for, Fourth Wing.
Right.
But yeah, it's a very pleasant experience at Barnes & Noble before you get to register and have to pull out your debit card.
Yeah. So I'm glad to see that this book is coming from that outlet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty. So we'll see. I will probably read it. It's been on my radar for a minute. Okay. Next bit of news, and this is more fantasy heavy than romantasy, but there is some love stories involved, so I'm putting it in here. Has anyone but me read any of the Dresden File books by Jim Butcher? Kelly, have you read any of them?
I've read a couple of them.
Okay. Did you enjoy them?
Not particularly.
Okay. If you guys, Asher, Jonathan, have you read any of the Dresden Files?
I think I've only read like one male fantasy author.
Okay. So Jim Butcher, this is the 18th book is going to be released in 2026. It's going to be called 12 Months. The main character is urban fantasy, I guess, set in Chicago, and they're a wizard. But also the books, there's 12 books. So there have been everything in these books. Vampires, fae, dragons, dinosaurs, Sasquatch, you name it.
Smorgasbord.
Yeah, it's been in these books. It's a fun series. I enjoy it. I really enjoy the main character. Feels very much like almost like a Jane Austen character. There's a lot of like old fashionedness to the main character. Yeah. So I won't say much more than that. If any of that piques your interest, you have time before the latest book is released to read some to work your way up through there.
Fascinating.
Yeah, Jim Butcher is often not often, but several times he's been to Dragon Con. But he's also kind of like a big author, so I tend to not stand in line and fight people to mess with that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Dragon Con, the next news we have, I was so excited. It's a good thing that Kelly was working when I got this news. I should have been asleep. It was almost midnight. But T. Kingfisher, love her, is the literary guest of honor at Dragon Con this year.
Ooh.
And I squealed so loud.
Poor Kelly.
When I saw this news.
That was fine. I was at work.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I messaged him at like midnight. I'm like, Kelly, look who's going to be at Dragon Con.
It's fate.
Yep. I'm so excited. So yes, I will be standing in all the lines for her. I will be going to all the panels that she may be speaking at. If anyone else is interested in Dragon Con, it takes place in Atlanta, Labor Day weekend, August 28th through September 1st. Tickets are still at $160 for the entire weekend, 5-day pass, and they're still available. Yes, if you're a T. Kingfisher fan, you can be as excited as I am.
I'm so excited for you.
Yes. Okay, next bit of news. April is National Arab American Heritage Month, and because of that, I wanted to do a little reading recommendation. If you're interested in reading an Arab American author, I would recommend Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. It's a YA read. It's got very like Victorian kind of era, maybe Charles Dickens kind of vibes. It's a main character has a tea room by day, and at night it's a vampire blood den. And then there's like a heist that happens in it. It's a fun read. It's a fun like YA heist kind of read. And I would recommend if any of that seems interesting to you.
A YA heist.
Mm-hmm.
That's words you never thought you'd necessarily hear together.
Well, I think of it very much like, oh God, what's the Leo Bardugo one? The Crows?
The Familiar?
No, earlier, before that. The Shadow and Bone?
That was all I had. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like the Crows,
Yeah.
whatever the Crows books were, because I read them all so fast, one on top of the other, that I don't remember what the actual name of the ones, but all the books with the crows, like it had that kind of a vibe to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of a feel. So if you like those from the TV show or from the book, I would recommend this book to be similar to that. April is also National Neurodiversity Awareness Month. We have a reading rec for that. We met Rose Santoriello at Fabled Fantasy Romanticon in Orlando last October. And she writes this series of books. They're monster romance. They're very cute, cozy, spicy, called the Augury University, Augury, Augury University books. And she is also Arab American, but also neurodiverse. I would recommend them to you if you like monster romance, if you like books in like academic settings, because it's in a university, and if you like Legends and Lattes. It's got kind of a lot of those vibes to it. I've read all except for I think the latest one she has out, so I'm not up to date on the very latest one, but it's a fun little series.
Mari, where do you find the time?
To what?
Read.
I don't get enough sleep. Kelly will tell you this.
That's fair.
Yes.
I don't know that any of us get enough sleep, but for various reasons. I know you don't. You don't try at all.
I try to get enough sleep.
I know if you slept well based on how many books are ticked off your list on Goodreads that I'm unaware of. Like if I don't see you reading it and you're like, oh, I read that book, I'm just like, you've been up all night. All right?
Kelly has something to say about that, don't you, Kelly?
I mean, that's pretty much how you do it.
Yeah. Middle of the night, Kelly will roll over and be like, are you still awake? Like, yes.
Don't ask questions.
One more chapter. Biggest lie I tell. One more chapter.
I fight back. I definitely fight back with an eye mask / Bluetooth headset. So like I pretend like I'm just going to pull it down, but I'm just really secretly listening to like some quantum physics YouTube video.
Oh, I know.
While she sleeps or while she reads. So
it's usually why I can't sleep.
Yeah, I don't, I listen to the first 2 minutes and I pass out, but every night I pick an hour and a half version. So that way I'm like, what if I accidentally stay awake this whole time? It doesn't happen. I'm just trying to, download the information into my mind while I sleep.
Okay. Any reading recs for neurodiversity?
I mean, I think reading in general. I think maybe not reading rec, but pro tip. Not that I'm pro at any of this, but find the style that suits you and then lean into it. Whether it's having paperbacks, or maybe you need it to be on a specific screen, or maybe you need the audio, or maybe you need everything all at once in order to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah,
listen
it all
to
counts.
Find your special mix, find your cocktail, and get down on it. As a matter of fact, if you have a cocktail, a reading cocktail that you enjoy, that really gets you across the finish line, let us know.
That sounds so dirty.
What do you mean? Oh, so I don't know if, ladies and gentlemen,
Sorry.
I don't think my statement's all the way through. In my mind, it makes sense.
It did not make sense. It just also sounded
I just
dirty.
put it out there. I'm not afraid to expose myself.
That also sounded dirty. So
Very dirty. If you have a style or something like that, I'm always open to new things. Currently, I like the immersive reading where I've got headphones on. It's cranked at like 3x the speed, and I like to do it with my preferred method is a paperback, and I like to have a new bookmark with every book. And then when I'm done, I just put the bookmark in that book.
That's cool.
So that's where I'm at right now.
All right. Last bit of news is that April is also National Poetry Month. So my reading rec for poetry is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. It is not new. I've had it for several years. Do you remember at the beginning of the year when I was like, hey, I'm going to read my physical books? This is one of those. I finally read it. I think it was last month or the month before. And then it's like a 3-book poetry series. The first one is about resilience, but it's really good. They're very short style poetry for the most part, very like Emily Dickinson kind of vibe, but modern. Yeah, I would recommend. And if not, tell us who your favorite poet is, or new to you poet, or who you would recommend. So, anyone have a poet they'd like to recommend?
I do not. Poetry was never really my particular jam.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss is my favorite.
I knew that was coming.
Hands down. I think if you're ever like in a mood where you're just not feeling 100%, one of my pick-me-ups, what has always been to just, not always, but has been to just read a Dr. Seuss book. You can get them in small, like not palm size, but close to palm size versions for like little kids. And they take 2-3 minutes, and you usually end up leaving that situation feeling better. On a side note, I had a project interview with a company that controls probably the most common search engine, and that topic came up, and they stopped the interview and dug into that so deeply. And they just, if you ever just say something in an interview where they just stop them in their tracks, and they're like, this is completely new information. And that's when it hit me that maybe this is something I need to share with more people. So, if you're looking for a mood reset, he does it for you in 3-4 minutes, something like that. So,
have you ever read any Shel Silverstein?
I have, but I was not mature, and this is going to sound weird. I was not mature enough to want to enjoy it when it was in my possession. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay, we are finally done with the news, unless anybody has anything else they want to add.
Later.
I know.
I would say for poetry, tonight's book leans into that.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. 100%. I agree. Okay. So why we chose this book. Kelly, you recommended this book. You had read it first before any of us. How did it come to you?
Somebody on social media recommended it to me.
Good rec. Definitely a good recommendation. Let me read the synopsis, and then we can go from there. Published September 22nd, 2022. Elspeth needs a monster. The monster might be her. Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mist-locked kingdom she calls home. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her. He keeps her secrets. But nothing comes for free, especially magic. When Elspeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, her life takes a drastic turn. Thrust into a world of shadow and deception, she joins a dangerous quest to cure the kingdom of the dark magic infecting it. Except the highwayman just so happens to be the king's own nephew, captain of the Destriers. I read it, I didn't listen to it, so you have to correct me.
Sorry. Same.
Okay. And guilty
That's
of
good,
high
you got it
treason.
right.
What is it?
Yeah. The Destriers, you got
Destriers,
it right.
okay. In my
say it
brain,
much
when I
faster
read it, it was
than
like the Destroyers. Of course, they're the Destroyers. He and Elspeth have until solstice to gather 12 Providence cards, the keys to the cure. But as the stakes heighten and their undeniable attraction intensifies, Elspeth is forced to face her darkest secret yet. The nightmare is slowly, darkly taking over her mind, and she might not be able to stop him. So we're getting right into it. Overall rating, what'd you guys think?
5.
No notes, just 5?
Just 5.
5. I have no notes. So like maybe the first 30 pages, I was like, where is this going? This tone hurts, right? Like we'd been reading some more upbeat or more classic, toned things recently. So I was like, I'm not sure about this. But that was a very brief moment. And I very quickly learned the error of my ways. And if Rachel Gillig has 100 fans, I'm one of them. And if Rachel Gillig has 1 fan, I'm one of them. And if Rachel Gillig has 0 fans, I am dead. Like, I loved this book. I have no notes. It was 5.
Nice. I'll go next. I thought, for me, it's a very high 4 stars. I thought the prose was beautiful. Like we were mentioning earlier, it read like poetry. The vibes were gothic romance. It was wonderful. The only thing that kept it from being quite a 5-star read to me, and honestly, I may change it once I read the second one. I do plan on reading the second one. So once I finish the story, I might feel differently. But it feels like some of the characters were underdeveloped. It felt like more like I was reading almost like a fairy tale retelling. So it made some of the characters feel a little flat for me. But because it's not a fairy tale, that it's not really a retelling, not something I have experience with, I felt like I wanted to know more about the world and the characters and why they made some of the choices they did. So it was a strong 4 for me is my overall.
I'm going to give it a 5. With a caveat here. It was a very good story. My mind kept going into like Marvel's Moon Knight. And so like I was impressed. And then with the audiobook version of it, every time it's the nails go click click click.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
When you read it at like a high rate of speed, it's more maniacal to hear the Nightmare's voice. And it's just the Nightmare's voice is just a twist on Elspeth's voice, but it's just the laughter. It becomes more maniacal because you're at like 2.5 to 3x, and then the click click click. Just like, dang! My only beef with this book is the ending.
He was so mad.
Where is it? I haven't found it yet.
It feels incomplete.
You found the ending.
It feels incomplete.
So we gotta keep searching for it in book 2.
You found the ending. You didn't find closure.
I didn't guess. I didn't know.
It's a duology. He was so mad. He came racing across the house, pounding on the bathroom door because I was not in the same room as him. He was so mad.
I don't believe this is a duology. I think this is just one fat book that they were like, cut it in half.
Well, yeah, it was like over 500 pages, wasn't it?
It was, but still, I don't know. I'm going to put it out there. Maybe if you're an author, and who am I to decide this? Yeah, just a reader. Maybe just give the book ending.
So here's my take on that, because on the one hand, I agree with you, because I do love a complete story, and I feel like my rating is incomplete until I read the second book. On the other hand, I think of like something like When the Moon Hatched, and how many people won't read it because it's too long. And I think that if they made it a complete story and put like both books in one, a lot of people would not want to read it because they'd be intimidated by it, or just not feel like it's worth their time for whatever reason, which would be a shame. Because like I said, the prose was amazing in this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. For me, it's just yikes. I was like, gonna get an ending.
I think this is the first like real big cliffhanger you've had, to be fair.
I mean,
besides like, Fourth Wing kind of had some jaw-dropping moments,
True.
but it wasn't necessarily a cliffhanger in this way, like unresolved.
Correct. She managed to like wrap it up in some way.
Right.
Where I wasn't.
Sorry.
Kelly, what did you think?
I ended up giving this book a 4. I thought it was very well done. I liked the overall theme of the book, which was about the struggle trying to sacrificing yourself and knowing that you're running out of time. So that was an appealing topic. So I found that idea interesting, and a lot of the other themes and elements of the book interesting overall. So definitely a good book. It was definitely darker than what we've read in the past recently, but I think it did a lot of interesting things that we haven't seen in some books so far.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the whole like her paying for the magic with her body, and I guess not just her, some of the people who use magic also pay for it with their body, is not something I've seen that often, but it's also not like world breaking new. But it's interesting that I just finished reading this and am also reading the first Dragonlance book right now, The Dragons of Autumn Twilight. I'm also not terribly far into that one, maybe 20%. But one of the main characters is this is not a spoiler. Also, it's like a book written in the 80s. But it's a wizard who has paid for their magic with their body, permanent damage to their body. So that idea of like magic having a price being very personal, very visceral is very interesting.
What was your rating?
I gave it a 4.
No, I thought Mari was saying.
No, I think I jumped. I'm so sorry.
Mari already said she gave it a 4.
4 for overall.
Sorry.
Yeah. World building.
Sorry.
Keeping in order, Ash, put your world building fantasy vote on it.
5. This is going to be a recurring theme for me. There will be no surprises here out of me. I enjoyed everything about this. I enjoy, the concept of a cursed village, right, is not necessarily new, but I thought the magic system, the deck of cards, how they function independently, how they impact, the human that's wielding them, the scarcity versus the availability of some of the cards, the individual personalities from, we really only see her, Elspeth, in this book, but I really liked the poetry as we were talking about it, because each chapter basically starts with some saying from the book or from the cards, right? And they're all kind of like children's stories, like spooky ass children's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of lends to a phrase that happens in another series that I enjoy very much. And it's all the stories are true, right? In some way, shape, or form, all of the stories are true. And I thought, how she came to be at that point with Nightmare was a very unique situation, parasite like, but also symbiotic, almost venom. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. It was very like,
yeah,
they existed within each other. They weren't upset with each other most of the time. They understood that they relied on each other to an extent. And I just thought that was a very different perspective than maybe any other story that I can think of that might be similar. I enjoyed everything about it.
Yeah, I agree on the fantasy world building. That Venom allegory is, that's definitely it. I gave it 4 stars because I thought that the world building, I thought that the magic system in it was interesting with the cards, and that it fleshed out in a way that made other stories make sense to me. So like there's lots of video games that use like this idea of like spells and cards, or there's like Magic the Card Game. There's anime and stuff where you have like this card that you pull out and that's your magic. But the way this book kind of fleshed it out, it felt very organic. It didn't feel cheesy or hokey.
Yeah.
Which in a dark gothic romance kind of situation, like a dark vibes, dark gothic story, it could have easily leaned that way, and it didn't. Yeah, it was really interesting the way that magic existed in the world, but the only magic that was okay, the only magic that was acceptable was the magic of the cards, and any other kind of magic was forbidden. And I don't know if it's because like I had just recently gotten back from a trip to Salem, and the whole like witch hunt and Puritan historic vibes were in my brain, but it felt very much like you can only believe in this one thing, and if not, you're a witch. You know what I mean? Like, it very much had those vibes to me. So world building 4 for me.
Am I up next?
Yep.
World building. There was a world.
Or fantasy magic system, however, whatever you want to focus on.
Perfect. I'm definitely, it's very split personality, odd type of like magic to catch the fever. And like, I don't know if catching the fever was available to everyone and that everybody who caught the fever left with some sort of magic. That was a side effect. And is it a fever to have magic? Was it seen as an illness, or is that just the transfer of magic into the body and the human wants to reject?
It was very much perceived as a disease, like as an illness. Yeah.
But by the controlling power,
by the controlling party,
seen as an illness. But it could be that's just that's nature bestowing magic on you, and your body rejecting what is coming from the outside, and then the survival is a gift of magic.
You're staring at me, and I've read book 2 already. I devoured, so I know the answer.
I have book 2 coming to me on Libby.
Don't tell me. I'm not going to read. I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to read book 2.
Wow.
So mad because I don't want. Once hell hath no fury, like a Jonathan Scorn. Correct. Yeah. And when you deny me the ending of book 1 in actual book 1, you place the ending of book 1 in book 2. I'm very upset.
So much more needed to happen.
And that's cool. It's very cool. There was to me, I felt like the idea of the mist, the idea of like magic leaving this like salt stench. The idea of people having to anchor to charms, to not be
infected,
to not be crazed, and lose control of one's will unless you have some sort of magic.
The charms were the protectant against the mist from catching.
Yeah, and then I think I started to get a little bit. The world building started to wear off on me a little bit because everywhere you turned, somebody was like, "Yep, I got the fever too."
I absolutely wrote that in the Fable book club. I was like, "Oh my god, does everybody survive the fever and hide it, or is it just the rich people? Is there some poor people? Is it just the poor people who get killed if they have the fever? But if you're rich or noble or connected, then you're okay to hide it."
Have you come across any poor people?
So I think,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this stems back to the stigma of catching the illness, right? So the thought process was you weren't supposed to grow up with it. You were supposed to be killed.
Mm-hmm. Like the kid that was killed, though, that was supposed to be killed. The one who, I forget the name, but his parents hid him and they were going to do the public execution. I got the feeling that was not a noble, rich family.
Right. So the concept of finding, quote, survivors in an older age was surprising. It was forbidden to live with the illness
and to harbor them.
Harbor them, correct.
So this is very much a card game, right? How many decks are there?
There's one deck, but each card has X amount.
And and so rarity. There's one Pokemon.
Have you ever played Magic the card game, Jonathan?
No.
You know what? I didn't. I'm aware of it since high school, and I think I always felt like I was at a disadvantage.
You like rules?
No. I like the idea of it, but for me, I think it started, and I wasn't there at the beginning of this, and then I always felt like, well, I'll never catch up. So why would I even jump? Why would I join this race? That was my mindset.
What did you rate the world building? Did you say?
You're so funny. Thank you for keeping me on track. 5 stars.
Okay. Kelly?
5 stars, but you're not going to read the next
Jonathan, 5 stars overall. 5 fantasy. Not reading the next one.
Right.
Not reading the next one. Dead.
I mean, it's not that I didn't like the book. I don't want extracurricular activities for the ending. Put it in book 1.
All right.
That is all kind, sir.
But you're going to read 5 Throne of Glass books.
I know, right?
And 5 Rebecca Yarrow's books when they fully finish.
There's a sense of closure.
No.
Even with like, so my
Well, there'll be a
favorites in
sense of
series-
closure if you read all the books.
Yes, it's just one more, not 5. You don't even have to wait. It's already out.
I mean,
like you,
Gosh, Kelly,
this
you're
really
next.
feels like
Kelly-
a
No,
movie.
stop.
so I gave the fantasy and world building actually a 4.5. This was incredibly different than what we've seen in the past in books. I liked the idea of the magic being relegated to these tokens, and that's how they took it away. Because if you look at it, there's a lot of interesting themes in there. You have magic, which is taken away from the everyday person and basically forced into the elite by making it so there's only 78 total ways that you can have magic, 78 total cards between all of them. So if you don't have one of those cards, and several people had multiple cards.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially this is a very much the rich get richer and the poor get poorer type allegory here. So that was interesting. You also had a lot of that theme running throughout it, which was definitely something different, and a lot of themes about, fear and superstition. We've got to have some kind of lucky charm or whatever in order to go into the mist, go into the fog. But I think the overall interesting part of this was, the idea of the monster within. The monster within being something that lets you do terrible things without taking the blame. Elspeth wanted to blame everything on the monster within, but she was the one all too willing to let it come out when she needed it.
To call it.
But then it's a convenient excuse of being able to say, well, I didn't really do it. It was the monster within.
And he was always like very clear, like you've always had a choice.
Right.
It was your choice to call me out. You knew bad shit was going to happen.
Yeah, you knew magic had a price.
Yeah.
Right. And then the source, you have the same idea of this magic being more represented by the wilderness and the woods, being eradicated by, civilization. So a lot of the themes you see in other books, which is the idea that magic gets destroyed by civilization or takes a new form by civilization.
Yeah.
And then there is a lot of themes of family and just the crazy things that happens within a family, found family versus loyalty in family and whatnot. So overall, I thought the themes were very interesting. I liked a lot of the characters. So overall, I think it was really well done.
That's such high praise. I'm so excited, Kelly. I've been dying for you to love a book.
All right,
What's
Ash, romance. What'd you think of the romance?
So this actually, I know more than I should.
Mm-hmm.
And so
rank
that
it on
hurts.
one, babe.
Yeah,
Rank it on one.
I'm pulling myself back. So romance wise, I think it's a 4. I think we see relationship develop against both of their wills, right? It's almost like that, like the forced marriage trope or the one bed tropes, right? And I'm a fan of those. I don't care. I love me a trope. One thing about me, I love a trope. But I really liked the evolution of them discovering each other to find each other, in their own ways. They had been, I can't think of the word that I want. They had been isolated, so Raven has had to be the protector that could never show any pain or fault or defeat, right? He's deceiving his king. He's trying to save his family, specifically his little brother, while being, the captain of the Destriers. You know what I mean? So he's deceiving everybody at all ends and trying to keep his shit together. And he's basically just like a young ass adult, right? Like he's barely an adult himself. And then Elspeth has been keeping everything a secret. Everything. She doesn't have any friends. She only has her cousin. So, I mean, it was really wholesome for me to see them come together and find some reprieve in each other. It was a 4. I know more than I should.
Having just read the first book, I thought the romance was a 3 for the same reasons that I gave earlier for the overall not being quite a 5. I didn't feel like I had a good vibe on what was going on in these characters' heads or their motivations. They felt a little flat for me, and that may change completely after I read book 2. But because they felt a little flat for me, the romance just wasn't there. Like I felt there was more of a camaraderie thing between like all the people coming together in the found family, but the romance was not quite it for me. So I would say it's a 3.
I'm going to give it a 2. I really didn't get a romance vibe.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there was a little bit of spice, but I think she was more hurt by her cousin.
Yeah, that was really tragic.
I mean, I think the romance was a 3, and that's I think a lot of the romance came in from the fact that she had such a strong love still for her family that raised her, despite her cousin kind of being corrupted by the power of that the beauty card.
Yeah, the maiden card.
Which, is again another allegory for how the pursuit of that beauty changes you and alienates you.
I'm so stressed out, you guys, because I know more. I know too much. I'm sorry.
We'll have to touch base when more of us read all of them.
Please.
Kelly, have you read the second one?
No.
Okay.
I can tell.
Spice, Ash, what you think?
Oh, the spice was minimal. This was more like fade to black spice, which is not always my jam. I thought it was tastefully done. It wasn't rushed. It was just a very tiny bit. I think it happened in the last quarter of the book, maybe third of the book, which felt important because, again, it wasn't forced. It was something, that they found together as willing, consenting adults. And I think it strengthened their bond ultimately. But I think it was only like a 2.5 for me. Like there wasn't a lot of it. It was what was there was minimal and short. I think it was like a chapter, barely a chapter.
Yeah. I'd say for me, the spice was a 2. There was a lot of pining. There was a lot of kind of build up to it. But there wasn't a lot of spice. Not that was necessarily a bad thing for this book. I think it would have been weird to have a lot of detailed spice when some of the characters didn't feel super detailed to me. I think it would have made it stand out in a bad way. So I think the spice was probably appropriate for the rest of the book, but just in general, the spice I'd say was a 2.
I'm going to give it a 1 for spice. What happened was it was minimal. It was very blah. It wasn't even like...
It wasn't that kind of book.
Yeah. It was just like, ooh, I don't even think it was pivotal to this story.
So I gave the spice a 2. I think it was what you guys had already said. It was minimal, not very right. It wasn't that kind of a book. So what's there was fine.
Necessary.
Yeah, what's there was fine.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Do we think it's a kissing book?
Based on book 1, Ash.
Book 1.
Based on either book, I'm going to say no.
Okay. I'm going to say no as well, because I don't think that any romance aspect between them was necessary or integral to the plot.
I'm going to say no as well.
Yeah, in the sense of romance, for it to be a kissing book, no. But I think everything that she did was probably out of the love for her family that raised her.
This is one of my favorite books this year. I've read some pretty good books this year, but I was genuinely surprised at how much I love this book and how, romantic or spicy it was, and how that wasn't pivotal to the story being as good as it was. I think that says a lot.
I would definitely want to read more by the author. Like, read the second one of this, but I also plan on reading more by her because I very much enjoyed her writing style.
Agreed.
Here is a quote I kept telling random people at work and everybody. So the way this author writes, this gives you if you're thinking about whether or not to read this, instead of this one character saying that she was tired, the way the author wrote it was, quote, "Weariness was king and I his servant." End quote.
Poetry.
Yeah. Done. Thanks for listening to Of Swords and Soulmates. Before we go, make sure to check the show notes, rate, review, and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice. It helps others to find us. Follow us on Instagram at Of Swords and Soulmates, or join our Facebook page at Of Swords and Soulmates. Check us out on our website, ofswordsandsoulmates.com, or on YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest with the same username. If you'd like to offer a suggestion for a future episode or reach out to us, feel free to do so at any of those options. If you want to read along with us as we prep for a new episode, follow us on Goodreads at Of Swords and Soulmates, or for chapter-by-chapter interaction on the Fable app at the Of Swords and Soulmates Book Club. And we also have a Tome account. You can follow us on there. The next episode we're going to be reading, before we announce that, I wanted to read one little review that someone left us.
We have a review?
We have a review, yes. This review is from Sarah Evelyn 21. I was looking for a review on the Spell Shop for a project at work, so I didn't have to reread the entire book, LOL. And they were one of only 2 episodes on the whole app that I could find. Romantasy is my favorite genre, so finding out that they're reviewing books I've read is so exciting. I personally like all the points of view, brings more diversity and chances for someone to express how I'm feeling as well. Yay!
Look at us. We got a fan.
That was Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. Last but not least, we hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for our next episode when we will be discussing Crown of Midnight, Book 2 in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas.
Oh, so excited.